Well, good morning. I'm Jeff Coleman.
And I'm Debra Pinkerton. Welcome to Morning Light.
So hang on in just a minute. Our Morning Light panel will go behind the headlines.
But first, here's a preview of what's coming up later in the show. A journey of hope, a transformation for life. LifePath Christian Ministries has provided shelter, meals, and access to services to those in need for more than 60 years. Plus, hear how you can get tickets to see the Newsboys live in concert, all to see LifePath, all to support LifePath.
Indeed. They've helped a lot of people over the years in their long ministry. Well, it might be off the front pages, but the crisis is very real. Tens of thousands of struggling families and parents unable or sometimes unwilling to care and provide for their own children. In Pennsylvania, that number hovers around 15,000 placed in foster care by a court or voluntarily by a parent. At last check, there was a 7,000 family drop. Get that number, 7,000 family drop in available foster homes during just a 5-year span between 2018 and 2022. That's a huge number.
Yeah, I was going to say that is a very big drop.
Yeah, the need is very obvious.
The need is there for sure. So placement in a foster family is often just the beginning of a chain of challenges. Despite inspiring stories of successful adoptions and forever families, some 23,000 children age out of foster care each year, which is such an astonishing number. 20% become instantly homeless, and there's less than a 3% chance that they'll ever earn a college degree.
3%. Yeah.
That's really so discouraging. So what are the real obstacles to embracing the lifestyle of foster care and even adoption?
I think you said it right. I mean, it's a lifestyle that you have to change the way you live, your conveniences, your preferences to accommodate someone who you didn't plan for.
That's right. You have to think of others.
Yeah, correct. Well, like so many reform movements, foster care in America is traced to a series of Christian actions. In this case, a man named Charles Loring Brace. At age 27, the seminary graduate decided his ministry wouldn't be in the pulpit, but in the slum districts of New York City. Brace helped an estimated 250,000 vulnerable children find homes outside of some of the most heartbreaking circumstances. So, do American Christians today have a vision big enough to meet this moment of challenge in American history? We're going to take these questions to the Morning Light panel this morning. And a surprise Friday addition to the panel, Pastor John Hayward. Glad to have you back. Yes, indeed. Secretary John Wetzel, always a delight. You've been great this week.
Morning, Jeff.
Bringing it. Yeah, indeed. Cynthia, Lyons, thank you. Thanks for making time and bringing your insight and perspective. This is really, as we just said, a heartbreaking topic when you talk about foster care. John, whenever you and I meet for coffee or offline, this is one of the issues that you constantly are elbowing me about and saying you have to talk more about foster care. Why? And where's your heart passion on this? Where does it come from?
Yeah, well, first of all, I was a foster kid, so that's how I started my life in the foster system, ironically through Lutheran Social Services back in '69. I know I look in the 40s, 69. So it's a real issue, and it's getting worse, as you point out. I mean, the number of foster homes is going down as the need's going up. That's an X we can't afford. You overlay it across Pennsylvania, where we have a demographic issue. We have over the next 5 years, we're gonna have a 5% reduction in school-age kids. 15 years out, that's a 17%.
Okay, you just said something huge. A 5%
reduction in school-age kids over the next 5 years, and over the next 15, it's a 17% reduction. These are people who are gonna be part of the future workforce. These kids, we hear these outcomes.
Yeah.
1 in 5 end up homeless at 18. Yeah. Just think about not having any transition support when you're an 18-year-old kid trying to figure stuff out. It is a crisis on the edge, and it's a crisis for our future. So to me, it's a really interesting and needed maximum impact opportunity for churches and other places to get involved in kids' lives who need it, and it looks like couch surfing. Right. You know, you don't see it because, they're staying at so-and-so's house, but they're staying at so-and-so's house every night.
It's true.
Right. So, John, the church's response, historically, it feels like all the big movements started in the late 1800s, early 20th century. All the Salvation Armies and the YMCAs and these movements, these adoption movements, and kind of the do-gooders that read the Bible, took it literally, and said, okay, we've got to do something. I'm going to give my life away and invest. I mean, this Charles Loring Brace, incredible. I mean, he's got lots of privilege, he's got lots of opportunity, goes to Union Theological Seminary, and then sees the slums of New York and says, I've got to do something about it. Is there anything remotely close to what they did back then in today? Is there an urgency? Do we get it, what John's talking about?
Yeah, so in your opening line, when you said, do Christians today, does the church today have a big enough vision? I think you need to start at the prior thing of, do they have a big enough God? Like you said, do they actually think that God is the Lord of the universe? Do they actually think? But I think even culturally, to what John was saying, the church reflects the culture too often in how it doesn't really prioritize caring for children. Period. Doesn't let their needs,
not just
their desire, not just foster, but again, when you have a lot of like muscle atrophy of just prioritizing doing the hard work of parenting in general.
Hard.
Yeah, parenting's hard on its own. So
Yeah.
then when you have that step of like extra difficulty in doing the hard work of like fostering parenting or things like that, like you not only do you need to have kind of people working out in general in parenting, but also you need communities that will come around and support those families. Because I would say seeing unmet foster needs and responding nothing is a detriment to Christian witness. As
What do you
far
mean by
as
that?
I mean, as far as there's the amazing difficulty of doing foster parenting and things like that.
Right.
As far as lots of death to self, lots of self-sacrifice. But do we actually believe that a man died and rose again, and that kind of like benefit and beauty can come out of dying to yourself and opening up your home as a place of hospitality for the needy and vulnerable? And the need needs to be there, but then also the support around those who are feeling the need.
Right.
There are lots of practical steps and organizations that are, because I would push back when you say, doesn't it seem like everything happened in the late 1800s?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, you can see some pretty big things, but there are things going on today. But I think it's reflecting the culture too much instead of going against it.
So what he's describing, you see, working in schools with families as a coach, educator, all these things. What do you think is happening to all of these children that are falling through the cracks or being ignored? And what's our view about parenting, the bigger picture parenting?
Yeah, well, parenting is hard. That's it. I would say a few things. Number one, there's a church in our area, the Encounter Church, that opens their hearts and has a foster care program in there, meaning there's a lot of families within the Encounter Church that are providing foster care services, as well as then a support system that comes alongside those foster care systems. And then they've brought in
respite care.
Yes,
these families
that's exactly
need a break.
Right. And it brought in other churches in Palmyra to help with that program. Number two, I think this should be a show about John Wetzel. And I say that because we just talked about percentages.
Yeah. He's a 3%.
And we can joke and maybe it did. But this is what people need to see. There's a young man at Palmyra High School that is a senior this year, Wyatt Aragani, and he carried a Bible through Milton Hershey for years and was adopted as a 15-year-old a few years ago. And as he would say right now, this is the only reason. That being said, the majority of kids that are in foster care, now you can correct me if I'm wrong, knowing the system certainly better, they wouldn't know whether or not they should carry a Bible or not, because they're more worried about, if I'm in this home, where am I going to go to school, and can I get 3 squares a day?
Right.
And that's the reality of it.
Normalizing and understanding what's normal and how to act. What foster kids don't want to do is stand out.
Yeah.
So that is a really good example. But I agree with you. The church isn't stepping up. To the extent, hospitals were started by St. Basil in 350, literally the early Christians. And it was a mission around orphans and literally a hospital and feeding the poor. And his quote for that, it's the perfect quote. It says, if you have 2 coats and someone else doesn't have one, then you're not being a Christian. It's our duty.
But then where do you, as somewhat doom and gloom as this can be, the only thing you can do is take a step in the right direction for the right people. It takes one person to go, I do have an extra coat, John. And that's where you bring people together to start the process of goodness.
So if you wanted your church, people are hearing this, I'm too old for that, I can't do this, I wish we could have, my husband and I don't have a husband anymore, don't have a wife anymore, we're past our prime. How can the people who are older, people who are younger in the thick of raising children, and then people in the middle rethink how they set the table around their house to make room for foster?
Well, I can think of 3 families that post 60 welcomed foster children into their home, and they kind of become foster grandchildren as far as age, but they still do that. But I do think it comes as simple as, like, of course, something's going to seem overwhelming if you don't take the next step, right? So taking the next step of looking for ways that you can support caring for children and support families caring for children. And then there are good organizations like Keystone Family Alliance that Dauphin County currently doesn't have a chapter of. So we should get them in Dauphin County.
Great. So it's very practical. So speak to a scared couple who's thinking, I don't want to welcome this storm into my house. We've got everything just the way we want it right now, and this could be of significant disruption, which it often can be. I mean, the honest facts about how difficult fostering is.
Find another way to support it.
Okay.
Just find a way. It's not about doing this or that. It's doing about what gifts God gave you and giving them back by loving your neighbor. That's what it's about. So it's it's using your position, using your access to help others, identifying unused infrastructure perhaps to plug kids into. It's doing something, not doing nothing.
You get the final word today, Cynthia, on this.
Yeah, without crying, I think John's exactly right. You may not be in a situation where you can take in a foster child, but a family out there that is providing services to a person in need, a child in need. So can you cook? Make them a meal. Can you provide an hour of service, respite service, so that couple can go and have dinner together?
Right.
And I'll be honest, come to the Palmyra Community Pool. And that's not a plug. That's provide an outing for someone else to give them an hour of respite care. Yeah, and give that child a hug. Yeah.
John, thanks I'm glad that God made you one of the 3%, because it's made a difference for a lot of people.
Barely.
Yeah. Thank you all very, very much. Well, more than 13,000 people experienced homelessness in Pennsylvania last year, but LifePath Christian Ministries is stepping up to help those in need with food and shelter and a connection to support services, all while extending the love of Christ. You're watching Morning Light on Lighthouse TV.
A Pennsylvania nonprofit believes you have to meet more than just the physical needs for those who are broken and hurting. LifePath Christian Ministries strives to help those in need medically, also mentally, educationally, and spiritually. Joining me is Patrick Ball, the CEO of LifePath Christian Ministries. Thank you for being with us.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me.
Tell us about LifePath Christian Ministries.
Sure. LifePath is been around since 1962. We started as the York Rescue Mission, rebranded to LifePath Christian Ministries in about 2016. We currently serve between 200 and 250 people a day in our shelter services, and we provide about 400 to 500 meals a day to not only our shelter guests, but also to the community.
That is certainly a lot of people. Now, you have a number of shelters.
Correct. So we started with our men's shelter, and we expanded to a women and children's shelter. Last January, we added a flex shelter, so think of men with children, right, who don't necessarily have a place to stay, or even moms with adult children who have intellectual disabilities, those types of challenges. We're able to welcome them in. And then this year, we just took over the Code Blue sheltering, which we do in our dining hall. So every night, we tear down our chairs and tables in the dining hall. We set up about 35 cots. We welcome people in. In the morning, they get up. We tear down the cots, we set up the tables and chairs. So it's a lot of work, but it's about 4 different shelters, all within 2 campuses.
And I'm sure you've been busy. I mean, this week has been a Code Blue week.
Right. So what we do is we actually run Code Blue November 1st through March 31st. What that does is operationally, it helps us staff it, but more importantly, for the community and our guests, it's easier to communicate. So they know every night there's a bed available in our Code Blue shelter.
Yeah, and certainly during these very cold temperatures, it's needed. Why don't you talk to us about some of the other services you provide?
Sure. So in addition to sheltering and meals, we also provide hygiene services. So for folks who live on the street, they can come in if they don't want to, if they're not able or eligible to shelter in our place, and they choose to live on the streets. We can offer them shower services. We'll offer hygiene kits. So think things like toothpaste, toothbrush, those things that really provide dignity and help people feel human.
And I was going to say, what type of difference do you feel like you are making with the people?
Yeah, I think when we look at sort of our results and what are those important measures, to me, one of them is helping people move to that next step, right? We don't want shelter to be their life. We just want it to be a chapter, and as brief a chapter as possible. So last year we placed about 853 people in safe, affordable housing. Of that 853, about 160 were kids under the age of 18.
Oh my goodness. So how do you weave the gospel into all of this, into all of what you're doing? Because you are helping a lot of people.
Yeah. So we do it in a couple different ways. We've got a number of just fantastic volunteers who will come in, lead Bible studies, lead those type of discussions. We also have, again, a daily devotional. So before people leave for the day or in the shelter, if they're coming back from night work, they participate in the daily meeting. That has some words in it. But for us, it's also just as important, the words, is the actions. And so having our staff interpret those into just daily activities, as an example, providing people with respect, right? And just treating them as human beings is one of those ways that we hope they know they're valued, and we're able to give them hope to say, hey, I am a human being, I'm in a tough situation, but there is hope to be able to move on.
And how have you seen lives change spiritually?
So we get people who come back, right, and they'll volunteer with us. And again, what they'll do is talk about their experience and how it's transformed their lives through different mechanisms that we have in place.
And how does that make you feel?
I think for us, it's really rewarding, right? And for me personally, dignity is a big deal. And I think if we can help people move through the experience of homelessness, right, in an efficient way that provides lots of dignity and is surrounded and with a focus on reducing trauma, when they get to the other side, they're more likely to be successful.
So how can our viewers help you? I'm sure there are many needs.
Sure. We have a bunch of needs, but there's, I think, a few different ways, right? Number one, you can pray for us and our guests. I think that's probably the easiest and most valued service that we can ask for. We also have plenty of volunteer opportunities. We have, last year we engaged over 1,000 volunteers that provided the equivalent of 10 full-time employees.
Oh my goodness.
Just a lot of people. You can donate to our thrift stores. You can donate packaged food and those types of things to our kitchen. And obviously, financial contributions are always welcome as well, which gives us the flexibility. Our budget's about $4.5 million a year, and we raise every single one of those dollars every year from the ground up. We are not a line item in any government budget.
I like the idea of thrift stores. How many do you have, and where are they located?
We have 4. They're around York. We've got one on Queen Street, one downtown, one in Red Lion, and one on the east end of town.
Okay, so certainly people are helping out when they stop there.
Yeah.
And you're gonna stick around because we want to talk to you about another fundraiser that you have coming up about the Newsboys concert. So coming up next on Morning Light, you can help raise awareness and funds for LifePath Christian Ministries, all while attending a concert. How you can get tickets to see the Newsboys, that's next. We are back in 1 minute. Welcome back. You just heard the mission of LifePath Christian Ministries. Now you can help them raise awareness and money also by buying tickets to see the Newsboys in concert. Joining me once again is CEO Patrick Ball. So the Newsboys, they're coming to coming to town to perform a concert for you, something that you are sponsoring. First of all, I have to tell you, I love the Newsboys. Okay. I interviewed them years ago, and certainly they've been around for a long time. So why did you choose this artist?
So I think what they've got is they've got a great following, they've got a great reputation, and they also have a message of hope, right? And we want to continue to bring that message of hope to our community, but more specifically to our guests. So we will have a number of our guests in the audience. And again, we want to just do everything we can to support them and expose them to different opportunities.
And people have been fans, including myself, for a very long time. What are you expecting?
So it would be great if we could have a sold-out crowd. We're at the Appel Center in York, and we're really looking forward to giving them a real York welcome and by having as many people as we can in the audience.
So what type of reaction have you received so far?
Overwhelmingly positive. When we tell people, you know, hey, we were able to book the Newsboys, they're coming to York, we get a lot of really good feedback, and people ask how they can buy tickets.
And what do you hope that the message they portray to people attending the concert?
Yeah, and again, I think it's really about the hope and the opportunities that are there, and through their message, people were able to pick up on what's going on and how they can embrace the message more.
And once again, this is a big fundraiser for you.
Absolutely. This is our third year. It's our Roses in Winter, even though it's on the first or second day of spring. We've done this the last 2 years. This will be our third year, so we're looking forward to a bigger response than we've had in the past because it continues to build popularity and momentum.
Right, and last year you had Point of Grace,
Correct.
so that was another big artist. What was the reaction then?
It was really good. We were able to book them and bring them up and work with our partnership with Living Word, and they were able to host them last year. Again, this year we were looking for a bigger venue, and that's why we decided on the Appel Center.
So talk about tickets. How can people find out more information about the concert?
Sure. Go to our website, www.lifepathyork.org. There's a link. You click the link, it takes you right to the place where you can buy the tickets.
And for viewers watching, what can they expect when they come to this concert?
Again, I'm hoping you can feel inspired, walk away feeling really good about sort of humanity and everything that goes into it, but really walking away with, again, some hope for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for being with us
Thanks
and
for
all that
me.
you're doing.
Well, we really appreciate it. Thank you.
And if you would like to support LifePath Christian Ministries by seeing the Newsboys in concert, or if you would like to make a donation, check out lifepathyork.org. Stay with us. We are back right after the break. Welcome back. Coming up Monday on Morning Light, clubfoot is a deformity present at birth that twists the foot downward and inward. Clubfoot makes walking difficult or impossible, but Hope Walks is working to change that. And we will tell you about their Evening of Hope and how you can be part of the physical and spiritual healing for these children and their families. And that's a look at what's coming up Monday on Morning Light. Now, Jeff, your closing thoughts, and have a nice weekend.
Hey, you have a nice weekend. That's really some inspiring work, and what a great conversation with LifePath. They make an incredible difference, and especially in days like this.
Yeah, absolutely, when it is so very cold outdoors. So they're providing needed shelter for people in need.
So go see the Newsboys. Well,
absolutely, I'm going. Oh, by the way, we're interviewing them.
Oh,
yeah,
exciting stuff.
So we are planning to, Morning Light will be interviewing them when they are in town.
Great. Have a good weekend. Well, Charles Loring Brace came from a long line of pastors and judges and abolitionists, reformers who believed that faith without works was no faith at all, that to be a Christian meant to surrender fully to God's plan, period. What an incredible way to see life and see the mission and calling of a follower of Jesus. So in his 20s, Mr. Brace began his work in the slums, to the alleys, to the afflicted ones, especially the children of New York City. And what he saw there would break his heart and the hearts of tens of thousands of believers around the country. He saw the arrival of Christ beyond the gift of the gospel. He saw Jesus as the declaration that orphans and the handicapped and the discarded babies and children, the chronically ill, now had dignity and worth. He saw that the arrival of Jesus changed everything, and it changed the way that you and I as Christians should see the needs of the world around us. This is what he wrote in an autobiography. He says, "Christ has indeed given a new value to the poorest and the most despised human being. Adoption, foster care, respite care." We talked about that on the panel today. All of these are extensions of a mission that began over 2,000 years ago and continues through the selfless, heroic deeds of neighbors like you and me. That's what the church is, isn't it? Here at Morning Light, we thank God for people like you who are doing that incredible work. For Debra and the entire Morning Light team, I'm Jeff Coleman. Thanks for watching. Go check on your neighbors this weekend, and God willing, we'll see you back here Monday morning.